Have you ever heard of a girl who could see what had not yet happened? Not in a dream, not in a vision. I mean, real things, things that had not yet come. In the dusty streets of Ogunike town, under the shade of a mango tree that never bore fruit, a girl named Ijeoma was born with her eyes wide open. The old midwife gasped, "Hey, this one came into the world with knowledge in her eyes." Her mother, Mama Oneka, just laughed, weak and sweating. As long as she didn't come with wahala, we are okay. But wahala came anyway, quietly, like the shadow of evening stretching over the day. As Ijeoma grew, she was different. At the age of 5, she would stare at strangers and suddenly say things like, "Your goat will run away next week. Your wife is sick, but she hasn't told you yet. Don't take the road near the big rock tomorrow. You will fall." At first, people thought she was just a talkative child until her words started coming true. One day, she grabbed Mama Ebere's hand at the village stream and cried, "Your son is not coming back. The canoe will capsize." Everyone laughed, but 3 days later, they were crying, and that was the beginning. Soon, people started avoiding Ijeoma. Women crossed to the other side of the road when they saw her. Children called her spirit girl, and even her own mother, the one who once laughed, began to pray against whatever spirit was using her daughter. At night, Ijeoma would lie on her raffia mat, staring into the zinc roof, whispering, "I didn't ask for this. I didn't want to know things." But it didn't stop. In fact, it got worse. She started seeing her own future, and it was not good. She saw herself alone. She saw blood on her hands. She saw people calling her the devil. And worst of all, she saw her death over and over again. Different places, different times, but always the same end. She would die before her 18th birthday, and nobody could stop it, not even her. Or so she thought. By the time Ijeoma turned 14, she had stopped trying to talk about the things she saw. Nobody believed her anyway, and when they did, it only brought trouble. So she became quiet, always watching, always knowing. But there was one thing she didn't know yet. Why did she have this gift? Was it a blessing or a curse? That question burned in her heart like pepper in a fresh wound. One harmattan afternoon, she followed her mother to the market. They were selling vegetables, ugu leaves and bitter leaf. The sun was harsh, their hair dry, and the women were shouting prices like usual. Everything was normal until she brushed past a man in a black kaftan. Just a touch, her hand touched his arm, and time stood still. Her eyes widened. Suddenly, she wasn't in the market anymore. She was in a dark room filled with strange masks, red cloth, and dripping candles. The man in black was there, holding a knife, and in front of him was a little girl, tied up, crying. Then a scream, then blood, then darkness. The man turned to look at her, slowly, like he knew what she saw. His eyes were cold, too cold for a man breathing here. He smiled, just a little, and walked away. That night, she couldn't sleep. The vision haunted her. The scream echoed in her ears. The next morning, she had the news. A girl from the next village had gone missing. Last seen at the stream. Same girl, same face. Ijeoma told her mother. Her mother slapped her hard across the cheek. "What did I tell you about talking nonsense? Do you want people to burn our house? This is not your business." But Ijeoma couldn't keep it in. She went to the elders. She told them everything. And that was the biggest mistake she ever made. Because that man, the one in black, was no ordinary man. It was Chief Ojiego, one of the king's most trusted advisors, a man of power, a man with money, a man whose hands were never clean. And from that day, he started watching her too. After that day in the market, Ijeoma stopped feeling safe. She would walk on the road and feel eyes on her back. she would wake up at night hearing footsteps outside. One time, she saw a black feather by her window, and her heart told her, "They've marked you." Mama acted like nothing was wrong. "Just focus on helping me sell these vegetables," she would say. But Ijeoma knew her mother was scared too. She had seen the way her hands trembled after she found a torn piece of red cloth on their doorstep, same kind from Ijeoma's vision. Then, one night, it happened. She had just come back from the stream when she saw smoke in the sky, people shouting, "Fire!" She ran faster, only to find their small mud house burning. Their neighbors were just standing there, watching, doing nothing. She heard whispers. "That girl brought evil. She should have kept quiet. Time should remain where it belongs." That was when Ijeoma knew she had to run. Her mother, coughing from the smoke, pressed something into her hand, a small carved cowrie, old and warm, like it had a heartbeat. "Go," her mother whispered. "Go far. Find the woman who walks with the night. She knows the way." Before Ijeoma could ask questions, her mother pushed her into the bush. That night, Ijeoma ran, through thorns, through mud, barefoot, her body bruised, her lips cracked, but she didn't stop. By dawn, she collapsed near an abandoned shrine. She thought she would die there, but someone had been watching her. A tall woman, dressed in deep blue, with skin the color of burnt clay, stepped out from behind a tree. Her eyes glowed faintly, like moonlight. She looked at Ijeoma and said, "So, the gate was opened." Ijeoma blinked. "What gate?" "The gate of time. The one humans must not touch, but someone opened it for you." Ijeoma wanted to speak, but her voice was weak. She showed the cowrie. The woman's eyes narrowed. "Ah, then it is true. You are the child they tried to hide." "What child?" Ijeoma asked. The woman leaned close. "You were not supposed to be born like this, but time is angry. Something your forefathers did has come back." Ijeoma trembled. "Am I cursed?" The woman didn't answer directly. She just pointed at the cowrie and said, "If you want to live, you must give it back to the one who gave it to you." Ijeoma's breast caught. Her mother had never told her where it came from, but deep down, she knew who it was. The woman in blue led Ijeoma into the forest, not just any forest, but one nobody entered after sunset. Birds refused to sing there, even leaves didn't rustle. They walked in silence, only hearing the crunch of dry leaves underfoot. After what felt like hours, they reached a round hut covered in cowries, red earth symbols, and something strange, a clock. Not like the wall clocks in town. This one had no ends, only numbers, and they were floating in the air. The woman finally spoke. "I am Awele, timekeeper of the forgotten line. I protect the stories that were erased." She opened a sack and poured out old scrolls, bones, and pieces of chain. "Your great-grandfather made a deal, a wicked one. He stole time from others so that his children would rise and never suffer." Ijeoma's heart pounded. "He visited the spirit of Ezemu, the god of the lost hour, and borrowed time, but he didn't return it. And now," Awele said, "time has come to collect it through you." Ijeoma clutched the cowrie. "What do? I don't want to die. I didn't cause this." "But you carry the debt. You see too much, because your bloodline took what didn't belong to them." Suddenly, the floating numbers began spinning fast. One by one, they turned red and disappeared. Awele looked up. "Time is breaking. Your death is no longer in the future. It is chasing you, minute by minute." "Is there no way out?" Ijeoma cried. Awele looked at her seriously. "There is one. You must enter the hour of shadows and speak to time itself." Ijeoma blinked. "Time is alive?" "Yes," Awele whispered. "Time has a face, a voice, a judgment. And once you enter, you must ask only one question. If you ask more, you will be trapped there forever. At midnight, Awele led Ijeoma to a narrow footpath behind the shrine, a place where the moonlight refused to reach. "This is the doorway," she said. "Once you enter, you have one chance, one question, no fear, no greed, just truth." Ijeoma took a deep breath and stared into the darkness. Instantly, everything changed. She was no longer in the forest. She stood in a giant space made of moving sand, spinning clocks, and thousands of cowries floating like stars. Everything ticked, tick, tick, tick. Then came the voice. It didn't sound male or female. It sounded like everything. Thunder, whisper, river, wind. "You who see what you should not, why have you come?" Ijeoma's heart shook, but she remembered Awele's words. Only one question. So she asked, "Can I escape the death that is coming for me?" There was silence. Then time replied, "Yes, but only if another takes your place." Ijeoma froze. Another? Time cannot be cheated. If a debt is owed, it must be paid. Suddenly, the faces of people she knew appeared in the air. Her mother, Awele, even strangers she passed in the market. Any of them could be chosen, and then the face of Chief Ochego appeared. Time's voice came again. "The one who tried to silence you. His eyes are red with blood. His death is heavier than yours." Ijeoma's eyes sharpened. "Can you take my place?" "Yes, but you must lead time to him yourself." The space shook, a wind blew, and Ijeoma was pushed back through the darkness, back into the forest. She collapsed at Awele's feet. "What did you ask?" Awele said. Ijeoma stood up slowly, her face calm but fierce. "I know what I must do now. I won't run anymore." She picked up the cowrie and began walking. Ijeoma returned to Ogbunike just before dawn. Her legs were dusty, her heart steady. The villagers were already whispering. She came back. After all that happened, does she want to die? But Ijeoma didn't speak to anyone. She went straight to Chief Ochego's compound. The guards blocked her. "Chief is not seeing anyone," they said. Ijeoma smiled. "Tell him I came to return something that belongs to him." When Chief heard that, he told them to let her in. He was sitting under a canopy, sipping palm wine, pretending to be unbothered, but his eyes were watching her, closely, nervously. "So, the witch returns," he sneered. Ijeoma stepped forward and dropped the cowrie on the table. "This is yours." The moment it touched the wood, the wind changed. The air turned cold. Time had followed her. Suddenly, the shadows in the corners began to move. Clocks ticked without sound. A crowd screamed in the distance. Ochego stood up, alarmed. "What is this?" "You borrowed time, but you didn't pay," Ijeoma said softly. "Now it is collecting." Then everything stopped. The gas froze, the wind paused mid-air, even the palm wine stopped dripping, and time appeared. A tall, faceless figure, dressed in moving sand and ticking chains. Ochiego fell to his knees. "No, not me. Take her. She's the one with the gift." But Time's voice thundered. "Your gift was blood. Your time is up." Ijeoma stepped back as the figure reached toward Chief Ochego. Suddenly, he screamed, not in pain, but in terror. His body began to shrink, collapse, and disappear like paper burning without fire. And just like that, he was gone. Time turned to Ijeoma. The debt is paid. Then it vanished. Everything returned to normal. The guards blinked, confused. The hair warmed again. Life moved on, but Chief Ochego was no more. The villagers heard the news. At first, they stayed silent. Then, slowly, they started coming to Ijioma's compound, bringing food, asking questions, saying sorry. Even her mother, who had been hiding in another town, returned, crying, hugging her child tightly. You are free now, Mama whispered, but Ijeoma only smiled. No one is ever truly free from time, but I have learned one thing. She looked out the window, watching the sun rise. When time gives you a gift, don't waste it. And if it gives you a warning, listen.